We are something else.
We are something else.
Tell me something good.
We are something else.
Something else. All right, welcome to We Are Something Else. Tonight, home on the range. Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam and the deer and the antelope play.
Yeehaw! Sexual chocolate.
Episode 21.
Yeah, we're old
We're
enough
legal.
to drink now.
We're legal. Can we drink? Oh, Superfly's drinking, ain't he?
Hey, I'm going in. No keto over here.
No.
Got the red cup out.
Got the red. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
CB, we're 21 today.
Hey.
Can you believe it?
And I mean, feel like in honor of that, I had some cake earlier. It was my cheat day.
Oh, what's that?
So, yeah.
We're about 3 weeks away from my cheat day. I've decided 3 weeks from now.
There
No
you
matter
go.
where I'm at with this keto, I'm cheating.
Right. And I don't know if you hear what's going on in the background. Maybe when the audience might not hear it, but we're hearing it right now. We're in a new location.
We're actually
right?
yes. We're actually outside. We're live, literally out in
Yeah.
the back of the studio.
Yeah.
We're trying to we're becoming method podcasters
You know?
tonight. So we're setting up. So we got the table. We have to take pictures. Set up the table. Set up. Got the candles going.
The citronella looking
Citronella,
all
yes.
romantic.
Yeah,
Exactly.
3 guys sitting around the table with a romantic setting. I don't know what that is, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So CB, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Clay?
I'm good, man. Superfly.
I'm good. Yes.
So how's your guys' weekend?
Weekend's been good. It's been busy.
Busy?
But it's been good.
You had a photo shoot today, right?
I did. A buddy of mine who I'm hoping will eventually be able to get onto the podcast here this sooner. He's actually getting to launching. But he's got a intellectual property, a startup called AbWad.
Oh.
He's going to have an app that gives you ab workouts of the day. That's what
Nice.
AbWad stands for. And I got to be one of the
you wearing a
models,
shirt?
I guess. Yeah, I got a shirt on right now. One of the models and everything for like the videos that are
Right,
going
I
to be
got you.
on the app, which is dope.
Got you. So, I mean, you should tell your boy I want to be part of it because I could be the before model, and then you can be the after.
Yeah.
However it works out.
You're right. You'd be like, oh man, you do keto for like 4 months with AbWad, and look,
This
you
is
go
what
from
happens,
black
right?
to being a short Asian dude. Yeah.
Superfly.
Yo.
What's up, brother?
Living the dream, man. Living the dream.
Yo, let me say, this outdoor setting.
Superfly is not just a moniker, you know what I'm saying? This
This
is a way of life.
It's a
bro.
way of life. No, I
Exactly.
agree. This outdoor setting
Exactly.
is nice.
And I think that ties in well with our special guest that we have today.
So tonight we are talking to Morgan Gold. Morgan, you there?
I'm here, guys.
Oh, he's coming in perfect. That's perfect. So Morgan is our special guest tonight. He's gonna tell us all about farm living, from the city life to the farm. But before we get into that, let's talk. There's free agency is going crazy in the NBA right now. So we all know LeBron went to the Lakers.
Yep.
Now we know that a couple of guys jumped on the Lakers. I wouldn't say bandwagon, but jumped on the team as well. We
Yeah.
got Rondo now. We've got Lance. And now the biggest one that could happen at sometime next couple of weeks is Melo. Melo
Yeah.
said he wants to play with LeBron.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are a bunch of people hoping that Melo was to go to the Warriors because they're thinking that might be the only way to take him down.
So he will be the Achilles heel, right?
Exactly, right.
But unfortunately, they said the Warriors have no more money to spend.
I mean,
So
yeah.
that's not a possibility.
Ah,
But never say never. You never know.
right.
But, I mean, LeBron does need help. I necessarily don't know if Melo is the help.
That's his boy, but
yeah, I would love to see Dame Lillard get the chance. I think that would be huge.
yeah. I mean, he's not like. I was mentioning this to someone earlier in the week, comparing Dame and Kyrie, and Dame might not have the same get to the basket skills that Kyrie does, but I think Dame's a better point guard than Kyrie has been at this point in his career. So I think that there's definitely a value add if you get first team All NBA point guard on the team to play with LeBron, because that's what Lillard was this year.
Is he capable of putting up 48 and sharing the ball though?
Yes.
I mean, dude, him and CJ McCollum been putting up buckets together.
Okay.
And, so I think he's got the capability. I definitely think he's got the
And
capability.
I guess the bigger question is, does he have the personality to deal with the LeBron? Because we know
Yeah, I think so.
LeBron is the alpha male no matter where he goes. The interesting part is going to be, what do you do with, not even Lonzo, is LeVar.
Yeah.
LeVar is going to be, he's already talking.
Mm-hmm.
He's already saying that him and LeBron, his son and LeBron together are going to, win championships. And I appreciate the confidence, but this dude right here, he's also made a lot of other comments too beforehand.
Right. Yeah.
But it's almost like he forgot about his other son that didn't get any playing time in the league.
Yeah.
He's disowning him.
Yeah, and that's all about his other son and LeBron.
Right, yeah. I don't know. Well, I was saying that I couldn't stand LeVar talking if the Lakers were to win a championship,
Right.
how they're constructed now.
They still may move Lonzo. It's still, you just never know.
Yeah,
I mean, at least to the All-Star break. I guess they'll see what it works out.
right.
So,
But Wizards got Dwight Howard.
yeah. Notice how we call him Dwight Howard, not Superman anymore?
He haven't been Superman in like 3
He's
teams.
like a super flop, man.
Like
That
3 or
guy-
4 teams, man.
So it's an upgrade, but I'm not that excited. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's a disappointment now that we know we're not getting Boogie.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah. Dwight at this point is just trying to stay afloat in the league.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue when you're on a different team every year.
Yeah.
I mean, some people get put on different teams because they're good trade bait.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just get put on different teams because nobody wants them.
Right.
So the fact that he was cut from the Hornets, well, they pushed out from the Hornets,
Right.
tells you a lot about him.
Yeah. I mean,
But who knows? I
Yeah.
mean, the locker room is probably what's going to be the issue with them because
and
you've
that's the
already
thing,
got
I'm wondering if that's really even going to be an issue. Like, I'm just,
You never know.
yeah.
He is a locker room headache, but then you also got a temperamental locker room right now with Wall and Beal, and they're, I guess, still trying to figure out what they're going to do. What they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at this point, I feel like the East is irrelevant, but moves like this at least make the hometown team somewhat more interesting.
All right. So speaking of moving and hometowns,
Yeah.
that's perfect for our guest tonight, Morgan. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well.
Great.
I just got in, finished my chores for the night, and just chilling out, ready to talk to you guys.
Let's do this.
Awesome.
So let's start off. Tell us the name of your farm.
Yeah, so my farm is called Goldshaw Farm. It's a combination of my last name and the family who owned our farm for about 110 years or so.
Wow.
So
Oh, wow.
the Shaw family.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us where are you from originally?
So I originally grew up in the Connecticut, like Hartford area, in the suburbs, and then spent about 20 years living in different cities, whether it was Boston, Hartford, Brooklyn, and then D.C., before I ultimately packed up my stuff and came up here to the farm in northern Vermont.
Nice. So what brought about you in being interested in farming?
It's kind of a weird thing. So I grew up with no agricultural experience whatsoever. Food
As
just
most farmers
came
do.
from the supermarket. I had no concept of that.
Right.
And
Right.
It wasn't until, I guess it was like my early 30s, and I started growing lots of tomatoes on my rooftop in Brooklyn. And that sort of started it. And then when I moved to D.C., we, had a little place in Capitol Hill, and we ripped up our front yard and put in garden beds and grew some stuff on the roof. And that sort of started to, get a little bit bigger. And then eventually, I'm the type of person who always wanted to try to take things to the extreme. I said, screw it. Let's get a big farm and really try to make this a real go of it. And so a couple of years back, my wife and I, we found this farm up just about 50 miles south of the border here in Vermont, and have been trying to rehab it. We put in a 600-tree orchard. We just got 40 ducks on the farm here, and slowly but surely trying to turn this into a working farm.
Wow, that's incredible. What came into play when you were looking for your land?
It was a couple of factors. It was one, something that was cheap,
Right.
because it's tough to buy a place. And I think the other thing was we wanted to be up in New England. My wife and I were both from this area. As much as I loved my time in D.C., those D.C. summers are brutal. And I'll take the negative 20-degree winters in January and February up here over the 95 degrees and 95% humidity summers any day. So those were the biggest factors. And then there's little things like, does it have enough land? What are your neighbors like? What's the town like? All that sort of stuff were all things that we looked into.
Wow. First of all, you hear that, DC? You're driving people away because how hot and humid it is out here.
Global warming's not going to make it any better.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right.
But actually, I will say, the last past 2 days we've had 70s. It's been absolutely amazing.
I mean, today it was 81 or whatever.
Completely out of the norm.
Yeah, because we've had how many other days this week that it was in the 90s. So But I think it's
right.
I think it's funny because I was telling Morgan a couple weeks ago. I was like, I've been to Vermont once. I went there for a beer pilgrimage because that's what I know about Vermont. They make great beer up there, and we did this trip in October, and it's 70 degrees, 75 degrees when we leave Maryland. We get to Vermont. We hit a couple of the brewery, or not the breweries, but the bars in near the little bed and breakfast that we were staying in. We left the last bar when it closed, and it was snowing. And one of my boys that I was with did not bring anything but shorts.
Oh my god!
And he was just not ready for it.
Were you in the mountains?
We're in Berlin. We were up in kind of the same area where Morgan is.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it was kind of hilarious. He brought some track pants that he normally would sleep in, and we're like, bro, you're just gonna have to wear those the entire time because it's snowing out here.
Right.
So Morgan, what's your typical summer like so far?
Well, summer's crazy busy here because between working my day job and working the farm, you're just basically trying to take advantage of every hour of daylight.
Right.
The past couple weeks, it's been a lot of mulching trees, taking care of trees. I do a crazy amount of mowing. We've got 160 acres total here, but there's about 50 acres of just pasture. So imagine the world's largest lawn that you have to mow on a regular basis.
You don't have a push mower, do you?
And then the other big thing is about 2 weeks ago, we had 40 little ducklings show up in the mail. And I've been just taking care of those guys, and I actually just moved them outside for the first time earlier this week. And, making sure they have water, making sure they're healthy, making sure they're fed,
So what have you learned
taking
about
care of them.
what have you learned about the ducklings to make you? I'm assuming that's your first live animal that you have on the farm.
Yeah, other than the barn cats, they are the first animals that we have here at the farm, and the reason was actually a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, because we have this orchard. I wanted the ducks to help control some of the pests and insects and weeds that pop up in the orchard. So we do everything organically here, and so the ducks are great for that. And then second, ducks are great producers of eggs, but not a lot of people produce duck eggs. So I found sort of a niche in the market, and plan to actually start selling duck eggs on a regular basis in the not too distant future.
Nice.
And then the third thing is ducks are just cool. They're like fun little animals to watch. You know, they're goofy as all hell, and
Right.
I just like hanging out with them.
I see the pictures you're posting on Instagram, so I was like, yo, that's a lot of ducks.
And it, so
Well,
speaking of
that's actually what the thing that most people are saying. It's like not so much, oh, you've got ducks. It's, whoa, that's a lot of
Right,
them.
yeah.
so real quick, speaking of Instagram, give us your handles, your IG and your Facebook, so
People can find you.
yeah, people can
Find
find
Yeah,
you.
yeah. If anybody's looking for us and want to watch, we put up a lot of videos and photos and stuff. On Instagram, it's Goldshaw Farm, all one word. On YouTube, it's Goldshaw Farm. Facebook, it's Goldshaw Farm. So it's all pretty generally consistent. But yeah, we do YouTube videos twice a week, every Mondays and Thursdays, and then sometimes in between, and then a lot of stuff on Instagram.
What do you normally post on your YouTube videos?
It's a variety of stuff. Some of it is educational, showing people like how we take care of the trees, how we trained our barn cats. The last couple weeks, it's been all ducks all the time. Just showing the process of, like what is it like to get a box of 40 ducks showing up in the mail and picking it up at the post office and bringing them home. How to take care of the ducks. Actually, I've got a new video out tomorrow, I think, showing how we're building like a mobile duck house that's
Nice.
going to be able to
Nice.
move around the orchard on a regular basis and kind of that process. So it's a lot of fun stuff. I actually studied like film and animation in college, so it's been a lot of fun to be able to make videos and stuff. I haven't been able to do it in a while, just kind of as a personal passion project, and so
Let
I've
some of
been
that
enjoying doing
creativity out.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, exactly. That got to have that opportunity to scratch that creative itch.
right. So and I've watched a
I've
couple
seen
of
some
his
of
videos,
those,
and they're
YouTube
done
videos
really
too.
well.
Yeah,
So-
the quality is real good.
Yeah, I was asking what camera he used, or what was he using, and he uses some good stuff. I mean, this. So we
Yeah,
got
just like a little Sony cam. So the biggest trick that I've found is lighting. It's all about the lighting.
Right.
Like, if you can make sure you have good natural light or good light sources, and killing away the harsh shadows, it just makes everything look so much better.
Yeah, I believe that.
What do you So obviously the stereotype about ducks is they fly south for the winter. What do you plan to do with yours during the winter?
So our ducks don't fly.
Okay.
They're land-based ducks,
Okay.
a breed called khaki Campbells.
Interesting.
And they don't need to have a pond, which are like the two biggest myths that people
Right.
have.
Wow.
And
I
the
totally
third
wouldn't
thing
know
with
that.
ducks is they're actually really cold hardy. So they can be in sub-zero temperatures and be just fine with just a little bit of shelter. And so what I'm actually going to be doing is taking the mobile duck house I have and coating it in some greenhouse plastic so it can actually keep and retain heat a little bit better.
Nice.
And that's where I'll be keeping them for the winter as things start to kind of get cold in,
Yeah.
like, say, October, like
When
CB was saying.
Yeah, when it's snowing and stuff.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there any qualities about duck eggs that make them different than chicken eggs?
Yeah, so duck eggs are interesting. They're known as the baker's best friend. They are about 1.5 times the size of a standard chicken egg.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they have a bit more yolk to them, and they're a little bit richer. And so that means that when you're baking with them or you're using them to make things like mayonnaise, they just are creamier and just sort of a better texture. And so
Interesting.
that's the main reason people like to use duck eggs. But then you can also just make a pretty darn good omelet with them too. So
Wow.
they're nice that way.
How far are you along for your ducks producing eggs?
So if I'm doing my math right, they should probably start producing in early October. But the plan is, and the way I time this out, that they'll be in like peak production come spring of next year.
Nice.
So this was meant to sort of kind of test the case and establish some things. And then next year, what I'll be doing, if this is working, I'll be adding more and more ducks, as well as starting to sell to some of the local groceries and co-op stores up here in Vermont. And then the other thing is, so half the ducks are going to stay. The other half of the ducks are going to end up going to the freezer. And we're going to be doing some things with duck charcuterie and a couple of other things as well.
Okay.
I've heard good
In
things
the
about
future.
duck bacon. I had a friend.
Duck bacon. Well, what actually the big thing I'm zeroing in on right now is duck sausage.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I might be hitting you up, man.
Yeah, no, if I can get this together, I will send a care package down to DC for you guys.
Let's do
That'd
it.
be beautiful.
Um,
What else besides the? I guess the ducks are besides the. You said the barn cats, the only animals that are on there. But what are some of the crops that you guys are focusing on, or the vegetables, or any of that?
Yeah, so I put in this orchard last year. It was crazy. It was like over the span of a couple days, it was like 3 or 4 family members and a handful of friends who came and stayed at the farm, and we put in about 600 trees.
whew.
Yeah, I know, right? Like I said, I don't do anything at a small scale.
Right.
And it's a mix of stuff too. It's chestnuts, hazelnuts, elderberries, mulberries, apple trees. I tried to find as many non-standard crops as possible to grow because, what I've found is a lot of farmers struggle because they're growing the same exact thing that everybody else is, and so
That
I've
makes
been
sense.
trying to find some niches that I can establish and make a part of the farm business so that it can be long-term sustainable.
Got to be something else.
Right,
Yeah, exactly. Why
Well
don't
done.
worry about being better, just be different. You
Right.
know?
Exactly. So how close is your closest neighbor?
Not too far. I mean, so it's one of those weird things where in one direction our closest neighbor is like a mile, but then in the other direction our closest neighbor is like, I don't know, 200 feet.
Okay.
So
Are they-
it's actually nice. It's not that socially isolating.
Okay.
The town I'm in, which is Peacham, Vermont, is just a really cool little place. It's a town of about 700 people. Everybody knows everybody, but everybody's super friendly, super welcoming. They have like weird little small town things. Like on the 4th of July, they just did this tractor parade where probably like 120 tractors were like just driving up the main street of our town for the parade, and it's amazing. People are tossing candy. It's so much fun.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very like, wow, what sort of weird storybook kind of place did I walk into? It's been such a transition from like life in DC, but yeah, I'm loving it.
So that's my next question. What's the biggest adjustment thus far?
All those little conveniences that you don't even think about, like where you can get sushi or Seamless or Grubhub or any of those
Right.
types of things, or just like how to get dry cleaning or a good haircut. All those things go out the window, and it's like, oh, you got to go an hour there or an hour and a half that way to get this or that. And so, that stuff is much harder to come by. You end up getting most of your stuff through Amazon just because, like, that's the only way you can get good selection other than going to, like, the Walmart that's, like, an hour away. So it's that type of stuff that is the biggest adjustment. But, there's trade-offs with anything.
Do you have a Prime service all the way out there?
Oh, heck yeah, man.
Okay.
But it's funny, like, what I found in DC, right, like, Prime was always so super quick. Like, you could order something, and the next day somebody's, like, tossing something at your doorstep. And you're like, wait, it's Sunday. How did this even happen?
Right. Yeah.
Up here, they stretch Prime to the limit where it's like, it's 2 business days. And
There
so
you go.
it can take a little bit longer, but it's definitely a good service.
Nice. Any other animals you're thinking about bringing in?
I'm torn between either getting a bunch of cows or a bunch of pigs, and so we'll see. I promised my wife that I was gonna wait until next year before pulling the trigger on this one, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be one of those two animals.
Both sound delicious.
So
Exactly. Either grass-fed beef or forest-raised pork. Like, how can you go wrong?
Right.
you can't.
No.
So when you're ordering your livestock, how do you go about ordering animals?
Well, so it actually depends the different types of animals that you're trying to get. So if you're trying to buy, say, cattle or sheep or pigs, even to a certain extent, you're usually looking more local. So you're going to livestock auctions or talking to the farmer down the road or talking to somebody. They have these like actual message boards that you can do purchases of livestock, and so I never thought in my life I'd be cruising those looking for good deals, but I find myself doing that these days. So that's typically how you're buying your livestock that way. But for certain things like poultry, you can get them online. So, for example, like if you guys are sitting at home right now, you can go to like Meyer Hatchery, MEYER hatchery.com, and you can find catalogs online of different birds and different breeds of birds that you can order, and they'll ship them in the mail because birds, when they're hatched, typically don't need to eat or drink for at least the first 2 days.
Wow.
So as long as they're kept warm, they're fine. And so they send these animals like in these like heat-packed boxes, and they just show up and they're ready to go. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as far as your everyday living, so you say you have another job outside of
Yep.
farming. Do you commute? Are you working from home?
Yeah, no, I commute. So it's one of those things where I'm commuting, I don't know, about 45 minutes each way every morning and night.
How many
to
miles
Montpelier.
is that, though?
What's that?
How many miles is that out to Montpelier?
Well, yeah, this is a big difference with DC.
Yeah.
It's about a 28-mile drive.
Yeah.
My commute in DC, because I was going from Capitol Hill to Bethesda, was typically like 45 or 50 minutes, and that was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 miles.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was expecting.
It's a much more serene drive. I'll give it that. You're going over mountains and through valleys and past all these farms. It's pretty nice. Only downside is the cell phone signal is bunk.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. How so is it basically just you and wifey, or how big is the operation on the farm?
Yeah, no, it's really just the two of us. We are, like I'll hire out certain people to help me do stuff. So for example, last year I had to dig some giant trenches for the trees, and like a farmer who's a neighbor down the road, came and worked for a couple days, but for the most part it's just us. And so what's nice though about the way I've set my life up here is I can work. I get up like crack of dawn and do a couple hours of chores, then get cleaned up and head into the office, and then I get back here probably around 6:30 and can do a little bit more stuff and chip away. And so it's nice to be able to see this progress. There was a stretch of time for almost 2 years where I was commuting back and forth from D.C. to the farm up here.
Oh, yeah.
We were doing a bunch of renovations and stuff, and that was crazy stressful, and I just wasn't able to be up here enough to really make a dent in all the stuff that we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm here, it's been amazing to see just how much progress has happened in like the last, I don't know, 6-7 weeks.
Wow.
That's pretty dope.
So when you say everyday chores, what type of everyday chores does farming consist of?
Well, let's see. So, the last couple weeks it's been a lot of tree maintenance. So mulching and weeding and mulching and weeding.
That's
every
600 trees.
600 trees. Wow.
So that's like one example. Because we're in Vermont and it gets cold, you got to put up your wood for the winter. And so I've been splitting and stacking wood on a regular basis, trying to build up a store of that. And, then there's other things like just taking care of the animals. Sometimes I have to move the fencing. Sometimes I have to move some of the water stuff that we have to try to make it easier throughout the course of the week. So if I spend like an hour or two just doing it, it only takes me like 5 minutes on the next day. And so, I try to do a lot of stuff where I'm like setting myself up for efficiency by stacking.
Right. How is your wife settled in as far as becoming a farmer now?
She's good. She's actually sort of treated as a farm assistant. She is going back to school right now to be a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
And so her vision is to be sort of a pseudo country doctor out here.
Okay.
You know, in rural areas, it's amazing how limited healthcare services are. And my wife, you know, she used to do a lot of public health work in places like Western Africa, so she's always looking for a good public health project to work on. And what she found is, wow, they just need people to be practicing out here, and so that's what motivated her to go back to school. And so she'll once she's done with that, she'll just be working in the area.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
So two things came to mind when we first thought about this show. So I don't know if you ever seen the movie Funny Farm with Chevy
Yeah.
Chase. I thought about that. I was like, so in just case you haven't seen Funny Farm is a movie about a city. Chevy Chase, he's a
Yeah.
big city guy, and he bought a farm. I can't remember. It may have been Vermont. I don't know, somewhere. And he decided he was going to write a book. He wanted to become a novelist, and he was going to buy all his land. He's going to become a farmer. Knew nothing about it. He moves all the way out there, and like everything he could think of just happens to him.
Right.
Hence the word Funny Farm. But
Yeah.
it was actually a funny movie. And then I thought about the movie. I don't know if you've seen it, Baby Boom. Diane
seen that
Keaton.
one.
Have you seen that one, Morgan?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, these are the two that people most often cite when I explain what I'm doing.
So in this one, not in Morgan's case, but it was a woman, big city worker. She inherits a kid, her cousin, and she gets fired from her big city job, and she's like, you know what? I think this one, I want to rate everything back to Vermont, but I think she did buy a house in Vermont. But she buys a farmhouse in Vermont, and again, it's almost again, like, to quote another movie, like The Money Pit. The house on paper looked really, really well, and then she gets in the house, and again, all this stuff starts happening.
Yeah.
And it's just big city living adjusting to small town living. But then along the way, she comes up with like a homemade applesauce because she it was an apple orchard that
Got it.
she bought, and so it's just how she finds her way.
Right.
And so that kind of sounds like somewhat of the case here. Morgan with the eggs.
Right.
Hey, Morgan, did you know anyone that had owned or operated a farm? Like, how did it occur to you that, oh, I could do this?
You know what? I did. I at least initially, and what I did was just a lot of reading, a lot of research. When I was in D.C., I started getting to know farmers, actually in like the Virginia area, who would like let me come out to their place, and I get to walk around and see what they have going on, and it was that type of thing that sort of started my interest and started to make me say, yeah, this is something I could realistically do, was like going and visiting other people's farms. And I think that was what, made it real and tangible.
Here we go.
Nice. City life. So you're about 28 miles from the city. Is it would you compare it to DC, or is it a smaller city?
No, not I mean, let's put it in perspective, right? So DC as just the district. Now,
Right.
forget Arlington and
Yeah.
Alexandria and
Right.
Bethesda. Just the district has more people than the entire state of Vermont.
Wow.
So
There we
just,
go, yeah.
that's for perspective. Montpelier, which is where I work now, is and it's about 45-minute drive. I think it has like about 7,000 or 8,000 people. I could be wrong, but it's I know I can guarantee you it's less than 10, and that's the state capital.
Yeah.
So we're talking entirely different orders of magnitude in terms of population density and what it means to be a city out here versus like down there.
Right.
Is there a nightlife for any of the younger guys, or most of the younger guys that are farmers?
Yeah, I have friends over and we drink beers on my porch. That's about as extensive as the nightlife.
That's how you turn up in Vermont.
But actually, joking aside, I mean, the best thing with Vermont is, and CV mentioned it again earlier too, is sort of the craft beer selection that they have out here is absolutely amazing.
Right.
There's within probably a 30-minute drive of the farm here, there's I want to say like 5 or actually 6 like renowned breweries that are just right there, and so that does help, and that does bring some interest and brings people from out of town for sure.
Brought me up.
Yeah, exactly.
So, your ultimate goal for the farm, what do you 10 years from now, where do you want your farm to be at?
So the goal is to have something that's sustainable for me on a couple different levels. One that's sustainable and is doing right for the land and doing right by the animals. Two, though, it's sustainable as a business, and so you see so many farms out there that are losing money or struggling, and so what I want to do is actually have a good, solid, not lucrative but sustainable financial situation. And then third, it's sustainable for me personally. It's not something where I'm burning myself out and getting miserable and hating all the ducks, but it's actually something that really brings me joy as I wake up every morning and try to deal with stuff here. So that's the ultimate goal. What that looks like in terms of a business, I don't know. I've got kind of a marketing background, and I've been very focused on thinking about the business side of the farm, and I've been testing out a lot of things, and I'm going to continue to do that for the near future and try to find the right recipe and mix of things that works that makes it a good business.
What is it about farming that really turns you on and makes you passionate?
Like the most, you think of that human needs pyramid, right? You need like shelter and like clothing and food. And so food is like such a basic need. But if you look at where our society's at today, we're often so disconnected from it. People don't necessarily cook for themselves. People don't necessarily think about where their food comes from. But once you start to unpack that and think about all those things, you start to learn that there's a lot of work, there's a lot of complexity, there's some interesting systems, there's a lot of good process stuff, and there's a lot of intellectual challenges that come with growing and raising good food. And so, that for me is the biggest thing that sparks interest. It's trying to solve those things, coming up with new ways to do it, coming up with more efficient ways to do it, coming up with ways that are going to help improve the land. That sort of stuff is really interesting to me.
Nice. So as far as land out there, land can be very lucrative. Are the property taxes going to kick your ass?
Well, here's actually one of the reasons I ended up in Vermont. They have an organization known as the Vermont Land Trust. And what it is it's a way to preserve farmland and forest land in the state of Vermont. And when it's preserved, there's some development restrictions in place. Like, so for example, our farm's held in the Vermont Land Trust, and so it can never be subdivided. I can't put condos up or do anything with it. It can only ever be used as farm and forest. But the upside of that is Vermont then gives you some very, very generous tax advantages in terms of property taxes.
Nice.
And so that makes it something that's relatively affordable to hold a property of this size because of the Vermont Land Trust. So there's other states have some things that are similar, but not all of them do. But it's a huge help for people who are trying to start small farms.
Was it just like a stroke of luck that the Shaw family, who had this farm for 100 years, that it was just available?
Well, and there was actually a couple of landholders in between us. But it was definitely a stroke of luck. But at the same time, it'd been on the market for a number of years. The farm had been abandoned for, I think, about 5 or 6 before we actually moved here. And that was just a matter of a lot of research on my part and my wife's part, where, we were, looking at every real estate site, looking at every zip code, looking for, different kind of land parcels, and doing a ton of research. And that was how we ultimately ended up stumbling on this place.
So how much actual, before the animals and the land, how much actual restoration to the house did you have to do to, you said been 5 or 6 years?
and I'm sitting here now, and there's still so much we need to do, because it's still very much a work in progress. But, we had to do a lot of structural stuff. So this house was built in 1835.
Wow.
Sheesh.
And it was only 1.5 stories at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then in like 1920ish or so, the farmer who owned it actually made it 2.5 stories, so they did like a big expansion of it.
Mm-hmm.
But they never did a lot of the structural stuff that you typically do with a house in terms of supporting the floor beams and stuff. And so we had to do a lot of that work when we first bought it. You know, it's cool though. It's got a lot of character. The floors are all wavy. Like I can drop a marble on the corner of the room I'm sitting in right now and watch it roll all the way to the other corner. It's like one of those things, but you know, it's got a lot of character to it, if you will.
Right. So that's. I mean, we on our show we talk about investing in yourself and following after your dreams or pursuing things that you want to do.
Yeah, going after your passion.
Exactly. So this is a perfect story about a person, Morgan, him and his wife. They were in a city and they decided to buy a farm. Knew nothing about it, but then not only just it's not just buying a farm, it's buying a piece of property that had been isolated for 5 or 6 years. No one had lived there, and then so it's not just them buying a farm. They have to build a house. They have to pretty much rebuild the structural portions of the house.
Right.
Before they can even get to the part where let's bring in ducks, let's bring in 600 trees. That's really
Let's actually do farm stuff now.
exactly, yeah. That's really investing in yourself. So how long did it take you to just actually pull the trigger and it's like, you know what, let's just go ahead and do it?
You know, so it was probably about 2 years of research and thinking about it and talking about it and trying to make sure that like my goals for things, my wife's goals for things were aligned, and then ultimately finding the place. So it was about 2 years, but you know the big thing was just kind of taking a positive step each like little go forth. Like
Right.
You try to look at it like, and I look back now over the last, I guess it's been 4 years now since we started the process of, hey, let's look into this. And it's amazing just how drastically different my life is and how much has changed and how far we've come. But at the same time, it's like you can unpack it, step by step, and it wasn't that drastic at each of those steps. And so by focusing on just taking that positive action and kind of getting just a tad closer each day, that's what got us here. And it's amazing how far you can get just by being very consistent when it comes to that sort of thing.
Wow.
They say consistency is key.
Consistency is the most underrated thing on the face of the earth.
I believe that.
So a couple fun questions. Do you have a cable provider out there?
We do, but we don't have cable. Like we were cord cutters, so we went.
Okay. We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. So like we've got Netflix, we've got HBO, and then I guess now I'm gonna have to pony up for the Total Ice package to watch the Caps.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, but we don't have cable, so I couldn't tell you even who the cable provider is.
And so what? I know you were a frequenter of the Capitals while you were here, and as soon as you leave, mayhem broke out in D.C. and they won the Stanley Cup.
What? It killed me because we had season tickets for a couple of years, and I had a couple of tickets to those games and just had to pass them off to others in our buying group there.
Yeah.
Man, it was a bummer, but it was a great outcome. I couldn't be happier about sort of how things turned out there.
Right.
Nice. So for the future, do you plan on setting up like a online store once you start producing, so people can purchase eggs or bacon or maybe any kind of branding that you may put out?
Yeah, we will eventually once we have something to sell.
Yeah.
Just wondering if that was
yeah. But I think the big focus is, and this is sort of one of the strategies that I'm looking to deploy as far as the farm business goes. It's actually finding certain farm products that can be produced from materials here, but then can be shippable. So, for example, like the reason why I'm thinking about like duck sausage is something that's actually easier to transport and has more of a shelf life than say like just duck breast.
Right.
And so, I'm trying to work that out right now. But eventually the plan is to have some sort of store and presence. The other thing I'm looking at is we're about 3 hours from Boston here, and
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out actually a way to do distribution into the Boston area, because that's really our close, that or Montreal are our two closest major metro regions.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Wow. CB?
Yeah. I was just thinking about how beautiful this citronella candlelight is that we have out here.
Oh no, I think tonight was a great episode for 21.
Absolutely,
We
man.
talked about adult things.
We really
at
did.
21.
And I think it like we were talking about, like we like to promote going after, your passions and everything
Right.
like that. And Morgan is that exact story, like literally
Exactly.
that
Right.
exact story.
It's
That is
about
a-
being adventurous and getting outside of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
You're leaving
Literally getting
you-
outside your comfort
exactly.
zone.
You're leaving such a cushy kind of lifestyle here in DC, and really going out and like blazing your own trail. And for that, I have nothing but like commendation.
Exactly.
Right.
Had you ever been to Vermont before you decided to buy the farm?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up in New England. So,
Oh, okay, yeah, you did, okay.
This wasn't foreign territory for
Okay.
me. Like, DC was always the furthest south I'd ever lived. So
Okay.
that was always a little weird. So, yeah, no. New England was kind of a familiar thing, but living this far out was definitely different.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, Morgan, we appreciate you joining us tonight on We Are Something Else podcast. Let's plug that. We Are Something Else is WERSUMTHINELSE on all platforms. That's Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play,
Everything.
everything.
all the podcast platforms.
Oh yeah, all
right?
the Superfly.
Yo, yeah, Superfly friends. Also at Superfly_TNT. I've been having a little bit of beverages over here, so I'm a little saucy, but you can catch me at those places, and also just look for Superfly friends. Those 3 words on all your favorite podcast platforms. That's where I can be found at.
All right.
And we're all part of the auxiliary,
Yeah.
the-aux.com.
Morgan, go ahead and plug your stuff again.
Yeah, sure. So Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, it's all Goldshaw Farm. GOLDSHAWFARM.
There we
Perfect.
Right. Hey, we gotta have him on when he's ready to start to put some of these nice duck products out. Maybe
Yeah,
start
no,
a GoFundMe
definitely.
or something like that.
This is definitely a follow-up conversation.
Yeah,
We'll definitely have
absolutely.
another one
Yeah,
of those.
and hey, look, if you guys ever want to take the show north,
Yes.
you
That's-
could
That's-
broadcast right from up here at the farm. Happy to
do
put you
some
guys up.
mulch some trees and they'll get some work done.
Have
on the
some
farm.
of those
I'm
delicious-
Yeah, exactly. They just
delicious
changed
Vermont
certain laws
beers.
here in Vermont.
We might have to set that up.
Exactly. I think we need to do that.
We could do a
Well,
road trip
I
for that.
definitely miss you guys. So
Oh man,
and I'll
we
keep
miss
listening
you.
for
We miss
sure.
you too, man. We appreciate you listening.
Yep.
And we're gonna put this podcast out. We're gonna plug the hell out of it.
Yep.
Because this is probably one of the more different ones that we've
Nah,
done.
definitely most interesting. Man.
Yeah, it's definitely. Again, anything about self-promotion or people who have an idea or a dream or passion and they just follow it. That's what We Are Something About. We Are Something Else is all about. We were
Yep.
founded on that very
Yeah.
those principles.
Yep.
So there's no For the Soul segment because it's dark out here and I can't see anything where we're wearing. I am wearing Chuck Taylors though, but
And
see,
I got some Ultra Boosts on. but,
yeah, and we know what
it's-
Superfly is wearing.
Yeah.
Oh, so Morgan, what are you wearing?
These they're actually rubber work boots. They're like the ones that go up above your calf.
There you go.
They're waterproof and duck poop
Respect.
proof.
Yeah.
Respect.
Perfect. I wouldn't expect anything else.
Nope. Nothing else. Yep.
All right, guys, that's We Are Something Else. All right, peace.
Peace.
And something tells me we ain't gon' last, baby. We ain't gon'. Something tells me we ain't now. Something tells me we ain't gon'. Something tells me.
We Are Something Else.
Better to be safe than to be sorry before you raw dog at the party. So bring some protection before you get a little infection. That way you both can win when you wear your rough skin. Yeah.